So, welcome to a new episode of Successpillen. And today I'm so honored to have Natasha Swerdloff with me from Denmark. And Natasha is a coach and a facilitator and a consultant in business and has been working in business for 20 years. And first, I would like to say that to our listeners that this podcast, it helps you to find psychological freedom in business. I'm so excited for our talk today, and we will really dig into the personal power you have in business. And really for leaders, listen closely, because Natasha, she has so many years of experience with leadership development. And I think most of our listeners are Scandinavian, and it's very relevant to the Scandinavian companies, how we work here. I know Natasha has a lot to say about this topic, and maybe you can just start to say a little bit about yourself, Natasha, and how you have discovered a way of working in business that really makes great results. I'm curious to hear about that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be part of your podcast series. And as you mentioned, I've been self-employed in business since 1996, so almost 23 years now. When I started, I was very much engaged in communication skills, negotiation skills, all these so-called soft skills in companies. And so I very quickly became this soft skill expert. I had a background in NLP. I'm a psychotherapist. I've also studied strategic innovation and knowledge management at Copenhagen Business School. And I have a systemic consultancy training as well. And so everything that I did was very much about tools, techniques, tips. And that went really well. I mean, I had a successful company and everything was going fine. I always felt like something was missing. I felt like there was something that I wasn't seeing. I got very interested in emotional intelligence as a way of seeing what's beneath the surface level. But even that wasn't quite enough. So in 2012, I was going to a seminar in England with a woman named Kimberly Hare called Brain-Friendly Learning.
Brain-Friendly Learning.
Yes. And I was looking at that. I thought, that sounds fascinating. So I call up this woman and I say, hi, I'm interested in your seminar, but I already am a trainer. I'm doing all these things. I have an NLP background. I've studied with Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence. I'm interested in cognitive psychology. And can you teach me anything? And she said, no, I don't think I can. And that kind of surprised me. Her answer surprised me. So that intrigued me also. And nobody says that, right? In business, they're always trying to get you to come on their seminar. And then 2 weeks after I'd been to her seminar, Michael Neal came to London and did a 3-day coaching seminar. And I came onto that. And I was so surprised and curious about how he was getting results because I couldn't see what techniques he was using.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Michael Neal is a really huge trainer and online trainer in living in LA.
Yes.
And has great success in the business world and in personal coaching and facilitating. Yeah.
I didn't know about him at all.
And the New York Times bestseller.
Oh yeah, he's very worth checking out. Google him, Michael Neal. Yeah. So that started a journey for me that allowed me to see more and more that there's some hidden powers behind how we human beings work. They're only hidden because we haven't looked. It's not like they're secret or anything. They're actually hidden in plain sight. We just tend not to look there. So I really engaged in this journey of looking at webinars, and I went to seminars, and I got personal coaching from different people to try and see what is it that what creates these results that I could see all these people are getting,
Right.
but I couldn't see the techniques.
Right.
And it was so different for me from anything I'd ever done. So I was like a Sherlock Holmes, really wanting to dive in and get into depth of what is that's going on. And what I started seeing quite quickly was that there are some factors, there are some principles behind human performance and motivation that I started seeing that if I can point business people towards their own potential in a much deeper way than anything I've ever done before, they are going to have more success and with more ease and with more joy. It's like there's no downside to this. The only thing that's been difficult for me is actually finding a language to speak about this because there isn't any techniques. And as soon as I walk into a business, which I do almost on a daily basis, they'll say, okay, so what 3 or 7 or 20 steps do I need to take to get this? I want to find my own potential. I want to be more productive and I want to take more ownership of my work. How do I do that? And the word doing is actually what takes you away from being. So, and often when I start speaking about this on the surface level, people say, oh, this is just like mindfulness, or what you're talking about is just like meditation, or aren't you just talking about emotional intelligence? But I'm not. On the surface level, it might look that way. On a deeper level, I'm actually speaking about how your mind works.
Right.
It's a completely different conversation that we're having. And it has to do with seeing for yourself that who you are in essence is not your thinking or your role or your beliefs about yourself. Everything that you think is your identity is just thoughts. It's not who you really are. And the more that you engage yourself in thinking, it's like you're keeping a whole layer almost covering up who you really are. And then that doesn't come out. So your true potential lies in seeing your true nature. And once you see that, then there isn't any doing. Like people become friendly at work. They become much more engaged. They think it's more fun. They take ownership, not because they have to, but because they want to. So all I have to do, my whole role these days as a trainer, I should be called a pointer, because all I'm pointing towards is our true nature and where all of our potential and joy lies inside.
Wow. Yeah, this takes me to your course that you call Personal Power. And I'm also interested about this being accountable and taking ownership of the strategies in the business. And leaders really want their employees to work hard and in a good way with their visions. And can you tell me a bit how can you see the results happening in people and guiding the leaders to what shall they do? Like when there are no techniques, what do they do?
So as I said before, it really has to do with people starting to see how their essence, their true nature is much more effective, productive, engaged, taking ownership, joyful, compassionate with other people when I'm not covering who I am with my thinking. So once people start seeing how their thinking gets in the way. So in my view, thinking is really good for 3 things.
Okay.
One thing is that it's good for doing your job. I mean, the actual getting from here to there, you need to be able to think. If I'm going to have to cook a meal, I need to know how the stove works, groceries, what goes into the dish. I need thinking. Thinking is a beautiful, beautiful tool. So that's great. Thinking is also really good for starting to look in this direction. In the beginning, when you start searching for your true potential, once people start seeing who they really are in essence, it's really a recognition of something that's always been right in front of them. So when they see that, it's not that they have to do something to become more engaged or to become more effective or to take ownership. Even the word taking ownership sounds like I have to do something, when really it is something that I want to do automatically when I'm engaged. I was speaking to my 13-year-old niece the other day, and she was saying, "Oh, I don't know what I want to do in school. I'm not very intelligent. I'm not very good at any subjects." And I said, "Well, what do you like to do?" And she told me, and I said, "So are you good at that?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "So have you noticed that when there's things that are interesting to you, then you actually spend the time reading about it, looking at it, getting good at it?" And she went, "Oh, yeah." So I said, and that's the way for everyone. I'm not very interested in mathematics, so I didn't spend a lot of time in that in school, but there are other subjects like psychology that I was interested in. So I spent a lot of time on that. It's natural. It's right in front of us. So many people every single day spend time doing a job that they don't really care about. So finding your true self is also finding your personal power. And your personal power lies in stepping into who you are and getting in touch with what you're in the world to create.
So if you're in a job that doesn't motivate you or that you really think is boring, what do you suggest people do then?
Well, often when I start working with people in exactly that situation, one of two things will happen. Either they will, the thinking that they're having around, I'm doing like this because it's covering, they're covering their thinking or their essence. But either they will see that they've been covering their motivation and their joy with their thinking, and when that disappears, then their engagement comes out, and then they're happy doing their job. So either that's going to happen, or they're going to find the place inside where they get more in touch with what they really want to do with their life, and then they change jobs. But it's one or the other, and both things can happen, and neither me or the person I work with know that from the beginning.
Wow. Do you have some fascinating stories or something that has touched you more than others when you have worked in business? Like some transformations you've discovered and witnessed?
Oh, many.
I know.
But I what first came to mind is actually a story of a client that I started working with, and she had bought I think 5 sessions with me. And she said on the first session, she says to me, "I'm a project leader, and all I want is some strategies. I'm good at my job, but I have some difficulties, and I just need strategies. That's all I want from these 5 sessions." And I said to her, "I'm not going to give you that. Do you still want to work with me?" And she got curious, and I said, "What if I could teach you something that's going to change every single aspect of your work life without any strategies? Would you be interested?" And of course she said yes. But it actually took up until the third or fourth session before she started seeing it. It was not an easy transformation for her. But once she reached that tipping point and started seeing how she was getting in her own way, everything changed. Not only her work life that got much more productive and more fun, but her private life as well.
So what happened to her? Like, if I came from the outside and what are you really talking about? How do people come to a better place in their business world and personal lives?
I think the biggest thing is really when people start seeing that they're getting in their own way. That if they didn't think so much about and create stories about themselves and others, that they would just experience life as it is. And when I don't take up my own bandwidth with a lot of thinking and lots of stories, I have bandwidth and then I'm able to be more effective. It makes sense to every single woman and man that I work with that if they spend a lot of time thinking about what will other people think about me, what will they say about me, what if I don't do this well, then what will happen? Why did that person speak to me in this way? That all of those stories, all of that inner chatter that's going on in their head, when they start seeing that that's taking up bandwidth, it's taking up their energy, and that when that's dropped and they're completely present in the now, which is the only place that exists, they're more effective, they're more compassionate with themselves and others. They don't spend time thinking about what other people might think about if I do one or the other thing, but they just do whatever their own common sense tells them. So that's one of the things that I speak a lot about is wisdom in business, and how wisdom is really our common sense. And when I'm not listening to all of the, I'm going to say voices in my head, it's not that we're schizophrenic, but we have all this inner dialogue, all this inner chatter going on constantly, that when we don't listen to that, but just let it be, that there's an inner voice that comes out and that leads us and guides us in a much more healthy and productive way. We get to ideas that we've never seen before. So when I work in small teams and I help them see this for themselves, they start making solutions to problems that they've been struggling with sometimes for years, and they can solve it in one afternoon. Because they drop the thinking, they drop all of their shoulds and have tos and who are we and what should we do and how should we do it. Once that's dropped, all that's left is this creative potential that lies within each and every one of us, and they're able to come up with solutions that they'd never even seen coming.
It almost sounds too good to be true, Natasha.
It does, and through the past 6 years that I've been working in this way, I've just seen it over and over again, and I'm still surprised. I'm still like, oh my gosh, it happened again. And with colleagues like my colleague Michael Neal, my colleague Dickon Bettinger, when I work with them, and they've been doing this for longer. Dickon has been doing it for almost 30 years. You know, when he tells stories, it's like, oh my gosh. But it's really heartwarming and beautiful to see how people are able to live much fuller lives, much easier lives, both in companies and privately. Because once you see this, it's not just about becoming more efficient and taking more ownership in business, but you become a more compassionate mom, dad, daughter, son, friend. It's in every single area of life that this has influence. So I can't think of anything better to do in my life than to point people in this direction.
Wow, that's really beautiful, and thank you for sharing. And I'm curious because I meet also leaders, quite a lot of leaders that are in a lot of stress because, you know, a lot is on stake, and they have shareholders or investors or, you know, numbers they have to deliver, and maybe a team that doesn't work optimal. How would you start to make this leader see something new about himself or herself that can help the business and personal?
I often sit down. I was reminded right now of investment banker that I was working with. Very stressful job, senior strategist, you know, lots of money at stake every single day. That whole area of investment banking where so many people's money is at stake is you know, a high stressful job, one would say. And he'd gone to psychologists, and he'd gone to, you know, seen different coaches. And within the first 30 minutes, he said, oh my gosh, nobody's ever spoken to me this way before. And what I did was I pointed him towards how he was creating the stress inside of him, that the stress was not coming from the outside. It wasn't coming because of the large money. It wasn't coming because of time. It wasn't coming because of shareholders breathing down his neck. He was creating stress via his thinking. It was his thinking that was creating it. And once he started seeing that, and he didn't create that kind of stress anymore, he could simply do his job without the stress. So in the 5 sessions that I had with him, he became a completely different person. And again, he started telling me how at home even he was becoming a different person. He used to be very like a bully. There was problems at his work with him bullying other people, and that was why he was actually sent to me. It wasn't even a choice. He was said, if you don't do this, I'm going to fire you. Wow. So that happens often, that people will come to me in that sort of situation. But so what I said to him is like, let's imagine that you're having a rubber ball in your hand, like a training rubber ball. You probably know these, and you squeeze it, right? So imagine that you've been squeezing the rubber ball for a long time, and it's hard. Your hand is almost cramping because you've been pushing yourself and pressuring yourself. So you're holding on to the ball with everything that you've got. And now I say to you, like, and you say, I want to get rid of my stress. Now, what do I need to do to help you get rid of your stress? What is the only thing that I'm going to tell you? Let go of the ball. As soon as you let go of the ball, it's going to, come back out into the full size. Your hand is going to relax. You're going to breathe. and life is going to be easier. It's that simple. And it does sound too simple to be true. It's like, well, don't you know all the complexity? Oh, yeah, I do, because I've been working in this area for so long. But I see that there's a much simpler truth to how we work as human beings. And once people start seeing that, it's a completely different ballgame. And he started seeing that, and he was different at work. He was different at home. The stress that he'd been feeling disappeared, and he still has his job today.
Wow, that's amazing. It's very often people think they need the stress. That's what I meet. Like, we need a certain amount of stress to do our jobs well. And for me, coming from the performance world, playing the violin professionally for 25 years, I know it's not true. I can perform well under stress. It's absolutely possible, but I really get exhausted. It's exhausting, and it affects too much of the general life around. I know I can perform amazingly without stress, without the feeling of stress. Just being present in the moment.
Yes.
And it's so wonderful to have gotten there. And for me, I really enjoy everything I do more now, without really doing anything for it.
Yeah. I've lived with stress for many years in my job, because I thought that it was high pressure. People pay me a lot of money each day, and I had to perform. Like I always said to people, well, I can't have a bad day. You might be able to have a bad day at the office, but I can't, because I'm standing in front of 20 or 500 people. I can't have a bad day. But that kind of pressure that I put onto myself by saying that was what was creating the stress. It wasn't standing in front of 500 people. So I know in my own experience, and also for the clients I've been working with over the past years, how starting to see how the mind works, how we can, it's about letting go of who we think we are and getting more in touch with who we truly are, that allows us to come in touch with this wisdom that's always been guiding us, that's always there to guide us in a more healthy and thriving way. Once we get out of our own way. And it's really a wonderful job that I'm very grateful every day that I get to do. Yeah, I often use the metaphor of trains.
Can you tell me about that?
Sure. I often say that, I remind people that, scientists say that we have between 60 and 90,000 thoughts per day. And people always are kind of astonished about those numbers. And then I say, so imagine that thinking is like a train coming into your, like if your head was like a train station, and now a train comes in, and the train can be, oh my gosh, I have a deadline today, right? So that's the first train. Well, if you would let that go, you could probably get on with your job and start working. But what people do is they put on another piece of the train onto the first part, which is, what if I can't do it? And then they put on a third part of the train that's like, oh my gosh, what's my boss going to say? And then the fourth train is, will I lose my job? And the fifth train is, can I stay in my house if I don't have a job? And what's the children going to say? And so on and so on. And before you know it, there's like 20 big, heavy trains behind that first train. And of course, once I have all these trains and they're heavy and dark usually, then it takes up my bandwidth. It takes up my ability to be really efficient in the moment and actually get to my deadline. And that story, people just relate to it immediately because they can see that that's what they're doing constantly. That one thought comes into the head, which is innocent. It's a thought. Like, I have a deadline today. Well, fine, let me get on with it. But that's not what we do. We start creating all this thinking around the first thought, and that takes up bandwidth. So when people see that, and they usually do quite quickly, they go, oh my gosh, I see that. And when they stop doing that, then the first thought that comes in that goes, I have a deadline today. Great, let's get on with it. And that's how we become more efficient. And that's how the joy of actually getting to it can be fun. And that's also why I was saying that the thinking is really valuable for three different reasons. The first one is that we think about our job. How do I do it? Who do I contact? What needs to be done? Great. Thinking is a wonderful tool. The second one is thinking is also good at trying to discover how the mind works at first. It's a way in that later gets replaced by a knowing of who we are, but that comes later usually. And then the third thing is thought is also great just for celebrating life. When I have to go visit some people, friends in Denmark or abroad, thought is really great of getting plane tickets or finding out when I can plan it and all these things. So thinking in itself is a beautiful, beautiful tool, but we misunderstand the power of it. We misunderstand it in a way that makes us sometimes use it in a way that's not useful, using it for worry about either the future or the past. None of them exists. There is only this present moment. So the more we can be present in this moment, the more efficient we are.
Wow. Yeah, that's so true. I know Norwegian businesses very often have some kind of connection to Denmark and to Danish companies, and they have corporations. And I'm sorry to say this, but sometimes I hear that, it's so difficult to work with the Danes. They're so difficult business people. I don't really know how to get through or how to do it, and they're cynical and hard. Is this something that or is it? Do you have some suggestions for Norwegian businesses how to deal with Danish companies? Is there some generality here?
Well, you should hear what we say about the Norwegians. But
I'm curious to know that. What do they say?
I think it's true for every single country that they will talk about other countries or other cultures in a way that's not always positive. But the truth is that when you look at the surface level, we look different, right? We have different tones of skin, we have different ways of speaking, we have different values. If you look at the surface level, we look really different. When I start pointing people towards what is true for every single human being, which is how the mind works, who we are at essence, that's the same, then the differences fall away. If I come to work with you in Norway, and I start seeing your essence and you see my essence, we're compassionate with each other, we'll want to work together, we'll want to have success with whatever venture we go into together. It's really about peeling away the surface level, which is only created from thought anyway. It's not real, it's just created from our thinking. So once we look beyond the surface level to the deep level, we're all the same. We want the same things. I can't find a single person in the world who doesn't want to be happy, who doesn't want to have peace in their life, who doesn't want to thrive, who doesn't want to be connected to other people. This is general. This is every single man, woman, and child in the world wants the same thing. So when I point people towards what we all want instead of how we're different, it's much easier.
Yeah, and you've probably seen this because I know you have been working with different cultures.
Many
Different
different
cultures.
countries.
Exactly.
I almost had, I mean, I think I've worked with pretty much every single culture on the planet, either because I travel around the world and teach, but also because a lot of people work in Denmark from different countries, China and Japan and lots of different places.
Yeah. And you can see what you teach now really helps companies to thrive.
So much.
Culturally,
when people start seeing how we're the same, I mean, imagine the consequences of that worldwide. There's so much focus on how we're different. What if we start seeing how we're the same and how we want the same things? Can you imagine a world like that? I won't meet a business person saying, well, I don't want peace or love. It's everything that they do is to have more peace in their life, whether they know it or not.
Even in a competitive world.
Oh, yes. And I promise you, your competitive edge gets much increased when you start dropping all of the unnecessary thinking and start just having the thinking that is necessary. Exactly. It's that.
That's great. Thank you. That was really a fantastic ending.